Hello guys and welcome back. So now in this video we will be adding the camera rotation to our camera controller. So for that, first of all, go inside the player controls folder and open up this input actions, and in here, just as we created a action for our movement, now we need to create a action for our camera movement as well, okay, in order to move the camera up, down, left and right, or you can say rotate. So let's add an action. Let's name this as camera movement. Okay, make the action type pass through, and right here make the control type as vector2. Okay, because it will take x and y axes. Now after this, click on this no binding, and in here let's go and search for delta mouse. Okay, so what this delta mouse will do, we will be actually able to control our camera with the mouse, and also we will be setting this for our joystick as well. So if you guys want to add a joystick, then you guys will be able to do that as well. So in order to add the joystick, click on this plus sign and then click the second option, which is add up, down, left, right composite. Okay, let's name this as right stick, because in most of the game we control the camera using the right stick. Okay, on the left stick we control the movement, on the right stick we will be able to control camera movement. Okay, now let's set these buttons, but first of all you need to change the mode of this right stick to analog. Okay, now for the up, we need to search for right stick slash up gamepad. Then for the down, we need to search for right stick slash down gamepad. Then right stick. Let me actually move back. So right stick slash left, and then let's search for right stick slash right stick. All right. So once you do that, now click on cross sign, click on save, and that is it. Now if we open up our input manager right here, as you can see, we read the values when we use the movement inputs. Now we need to read the values when we use the camera movement inputs. Okay, so right here we will create a public vector2. Let's name this as camera movement input. After this, in here we will say player controls dot player movement. Okay, this is this action map name, player movement. Then we will say dot camera movement. So player movement dot camera movement, then dot performed plus equals to I, then equals to greater than the camera movement input, then this will be equals to I dot read value, then we will say vector2. That is it. Now as you know that we when we read the inputs for the player movement, then we take the vertical input and the horizontal input separately. Okay, and then we use them right here. Now what we're gonna do, we will take the vertical and horizontal input of the camera movement separately as well. Okay, so for that, let's do it after this. So let's create a public float. Let's name this as camera input X. You can name this as camera input vertical, horizontal as well if you want, but I will use camera input X, then camera input Y. Now, in here in the handle movement input, just as we did for the vertical input, horizontal input, let's now do it for the camera input as well. So camera input X will be equals to camera input camera movement input dot X, and then camera input Y will be equals to camera movement input dot Y. Okay, all right. Right here we are just simply taking the input of our mouse or joystick, and then we are just simply equaling it to our camera input X and Y. Okay, so now once we have the inputs, now let's actually rotate our camera. Okay, so on the camera manager script now, we need to declare first of all some variables. So the first one will be a float by the name of look angle, and this look angle will be for our camera movement, okay, the up and down movement of our camera. Okay, and then after this we will create another float by the name of pivot angle, and this pivot angle will be basically our camera left and right movement. So this one is up and down, this one is left and right. Now as you know that we are dealing with our inputs on our input manager script, so we need our input manager script on this camera manager script. Okay, so we will create a reference to it. So at the top we will say input manager. Let's name this as input manager as well. Then in our awake method, what we're gonna do, we will say input manager equals to find object of type input manager. Now let's go ahead and create a method in order to rotate our camera up, down, left, right. So let's name this method as rotate camera, and for rotating the camera we first of all need two floats. So the first one will be by the name of camera look speed, and this will be equals to 2 by default. Then the next one will be camera pivot speed, and this will be for now 2 as well. Okay, now in here we will say look angle equals to look angle plus, in here we will say input manager dot camera input X, multiply that by the camera or cam look speed, and then the pivot angle will be equals to pivot angle plus input manager dot camera input Y. Let's multiply that by our cam pivot speed. Okay, so this will give us the uh, angle in which we can look up and down, and this one is, as I told you, left and right. And as you know that on most of our scripts, we do this method in which we create one public method, and in that we call all of our other methods. Okay, so we're gonna do that on this one as well, because we will be having more methods, for example, for the camera collision and for the scope switching. Okay, when we add a firing system in our game, then we will also be adding the scope switch as well. So we will be having many methods. So that is why what we need to do now is we just need to remove the public sign from there, and right here create a public void. Let's name this as handle all camera movement, and in here we will call the follow target and then the rotate camera. So once you do this, now let's just copy this method name from here and click on the player manager where it is right here. And in the late update, now instead of this camera manager dot follow target, we need to paste that handle all camera movement. So once you do this, now right here on our rotate camera, now we have the angles for up and down, left and right. Now let's actually rotate our camera on that angles. So first of all, we're gonna create a vector 3 by the name of rotation, and we want this vector 3 xyz to be 0. So we will just simply say vector 3 dot 0. Then after this, we will say rotation dot y, and the y of this will be equals to our look angle. After this, right here, let's quickly add a reference to our camera pivot game object. So after the player transform, we will say public transform. Let's name this as camera pivot. Okay, then right down below, we will create a quaternion by the name of target rotation, and this will be equals to quaternion dot Euler, and in here we will pass rotation. Okay, once we have the required rotation, then what we're gonna do now, we will say transform dot rotation. Okay, so the camera manager rotation will be now equals to the target rotation. Okay, then after this we will set the rotation to vector 3 dot 0, and then the rotation dot x will be equals to pivot angle. Okay, and once it is equals to pivot angle, then we will set target rotation equals to quaternion dot Euler. Let's pass in now the rotation, and then at the end the camera pivot, okay, for which we created this reference. This will be now its local rotation. Okay, it will be equals to target rotation, simple as that. So this will now basically move our camera on left, up and down, and left and right. Okay, now save the game, I mean the script, get back right here, click on camera manager. We need to provide the camera pivot. So drag and drop the camera pivot. Now the camera look speed and pivot speed is 2 and 2. So let's play the game and see how does it looks. So as you can see, the speed of the camera is very fast. So what we're gonna do, we will make this as zero point 0.5 and pivot speed as zero point 0.5 as well. Now it is a little bit slow, so we can change it to 0 0.1, 0 0.1. Nope, 0 0.3 should be a good value. Alright, so left and right, up and down. But for now, if you notice, we can move the camera on 360, as you can see. Okay, we don't want that. We want the camera to be restricted to a certain height. Okay, but now as you can see, our camera is looking perfectly fine. It works perfectly fine as well, and wherever we move our player, as you can see, I mean wherever we point our camera, the player moves to that point as well. But if we stop the player, okay, the first issue is this one. Okay, we need to make the camera, we need to limit the camera angle, and also when we rotate the camera to the left and right, we also want the player to move, or you can say to rotate to the left and right, just like in PUBG. Okay, in PUBG, when we move our camera left and right, the player rotates with the camera as well. Okay, so we're gonna do that in our upcoming videos. Okay,